PlayStation 1 had three major effects on games of the 90s. One, it displaced Nintendo as the big Japanese game platform and snagged all the good RPGs after Chrono Trigger. Two, it knocked Sega out of the console wars entirely by outselling the Saturn and then the Dreamcast. Three, it had the single coolest game of the late 90s, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. All other games were considered nerdy, but Tony Hawk and the PlayStation 1 was very, very cool.
PlayStation was to gaming in the 90s what nu metal was to music. Now hear me out. What it did was it brought different types of people together with a shared common interest, where Korn and Limp Bizkit brought together fans of bad metal and bad rap music in one harmonious whole. The PS1 appealed to every hesher, every jock, every nerd, every otaku, every goth, every basic, just the entire population of young people, otherwise known as teens, all together in a unified way that even the SNES and the Genesis failed to do. If you met three young people in the 90s and one of them didn't play the PS1, well, then that third teen must have been Amish or something, man.
Before the PlayStation launched, Nintendo had faced fierce competition in the console wars and handily defeated competitor after competitor. But when Nintendo and Sony attempted to create a console together, only for the two companies to have a massive falling out and create the N64 and PlayStation respectively, Nintendo's monopolistic reign on gaming ended and the console wars as we know it began. The PlayStation's dominance over the industry at the time, not to mention their quest to marry cutting-edge entertainment media technology with gaming, reignited the industry and brought a whole new generation of savvy consumers to the home console market.
So to me, the most important thing that the PlayStation actually brought to the table was a lack of personality, much like myself. Nintendo and Sega both have very clear brands and development styles that they always try to build around. When PlayStation came around and Crash Bandicoot failed to stick as a mascot, that actually made room for what turned out to be the widest software library and range of styles and tones ever assembled on one gaming machine up to that point. Of course, Sony has more competition on that front these days, but PlayStation has always been, in my mind, the console that believes that the games make the system. And I also believe that as well.
I think for me, one of the things that PlayStation as a brand has innovated a lot in general for gaming is this idea of cinematic storytelling. Games have always sort of been chasing movies, and while games can do so many things uniquely, they can also tell pretty damn cool movie stories. And I think some of Sony's greatest developers and greatest games, like The Last of Us, like the Uncharted series, like God of War, tell something that has a cinematic scope and an ambition, but does it in only a way a game can. And they never sacrifice story for gameplay. They find ways to marry the two of them together and have been doing that for generations, but we've seen that sort of crystallize in the last generation or two. And I think it's so powerful, so cool to see from over 25 years to what we have right now and what we're going to have in the future.
The Sony PlayStation was integral to video games growing up as a medium, both in the leap to 3D graphics, optical media, and M-rated games, but also with the idea that a game console could be a bona fide grown-up consumer electronic rather than just an expensive children's plaything. In addition to providing a whole generation of kids with tons of great gaming experiences, the original PlayStation was also their first CD player, just like its subsequent iterations were baby's first DVD player, Blu-ray player, and streaming media device of choice. After all, games aren't the only things that can be played. Anecdotally, one of the magical things about the first PlayStation is that a lot of the games contain audio files that could be accessed in a regular CD player. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater was a great game and a great musical compilation. What a time to be alive. Happy birthday, PlayStation.